Good evening. Hope you're doing well. Hopefully, better things to do than be a weirdo in a garage, drunk AF, teaching randos on the internet how to make self-defense explosives and self-defense explosive accessories. I got nothing better to do than that, so let's talk about aminoguanidine bicarb. You probably wanting to fire some NAP. You want to up that game. You want to get into that. You need some of that AGU bicarb, babe. Now, where are you going to find it? Because it's not for sale yet. This just turns into an eBay ad where I'm selling aminoguanidine on eBay. I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. What I'm going to do is there's a couple different ways to come up with AGU. Probably the best way is to just produce it straight, which is it's an involved process. It's for another time. There's an electrolytic reduction of nitroguanidine. It works really well. It's pretty smooth. I like it a lot. It's kind of weird, and you gotta really get set up to do it. Once you get set up and successfully start doing runs of it, you can really churn out a lot of AGU. The quickest method is probably going to be small batch method. There's some patents out that describe reduction of nitroguanidine with zinc reduction, and then there is from the forums there's a member, I think his name is what is that name, Dichronic. I think it's the Dichronic method. Hopefully I'm not messing that up. I'm bad with those kinds of names. Okay, this method works really smoothly. I've been using it for, I think he just put that out not too long ago, so maybe a couple of years I've been doing it. I'm not sure. It's fantastic. Way less clogging and slushy zinc mix nonsense. You don't have to play with that. This is very clean for a nitroguanidine reduction. Using this method, you're going to start off with 20 grams of nitroguanidine, and then you should end up somewhere around 15 grams of aminoguanidine bicarbonate on the other side. Okay, so it is now the next day. I tried to film last night, but the video got a little bit slurry. So we're going to refilm the dialogue so that you can understand what I'm saying. So reduction of nitroguanidine to aminoguanidine and then extraction as the bicarbonate, that's what we're doing. So starting out with your reagents for this procedure, you're going to need zinc, you're going to need nitroguanidine, ammonium sulfate. You can use ag grade ammonium sulfate, it works fine. No big deal. It doesn't have to be super clean. You're going to need some distilled water. You want to use, at least distilled water, because you don't want to use tap because of the ions in the tap water. This is ionically sensitive, this reaction. The ratio of reagents is listed here for your reference. And what I do is initially take the sulfate, the ammonium sulfate, I'm going to put it into the solution of water, and I'm going to stir. For this portion, you can use a magnetic stir. It's not too difficult to stir this stuff and get it into solution. Once you get your ammonium sulfate into solution, it's then time to add nitroguanidine. When you add it, it's going to thicken up the solution quite a bit. It's going to be more difficult to stir. I've found that overhead stirring is pretty much a must. If you have a strong magnetic stir, you may be able to get away with using that. I just go straight to overhead. It just makes more sense. Now that nitroguanidine is added into the reaction vessel, we can begin cooling. We're going to use an external cooling bath with just ice. If you want to get really cold conditions, this is a pretty exothermic reaction. You probably want to use salt and ice. I've done it both ways with, it works fine with just ice alone, or you can use salt and ice if you want to make it a little easier on yourself. So we're stirring the undissolved nitroguanidine, ammonium sulfate and water solution and chilling it externally. Once it reaches 10 C, it's now time to begin adding zinc. Zinc is added really slowly, especially when you first start adding it. It's extremely exothermic and it builds up, so you can really get out of control in temperature if you go too quickly. So you want to go slow on your additions at first. The target range of working temperature is somewhere between 5 to 15 C. When you start to get above 15 C, you're going to have some loss in product. I've run this reaction with a strict 15 C max. I've run it between 15 and 20 C. If you're impatient like me and you just want to get done, you can add it a little bit faster, stay between 15 and 20 C. You'll still get a yield out of this. Remember that for aminoguanidine, approximately 1 gram is going to yield you, depending on the variant that you make, about a gram of NAP. So a 15 gram yield goes quite a long ways. Also, this reaction can be scaled up a little bit if you want to do double or whatever. There isn't really a danger of scaling up, so have at it. So you've now been, at this point, adding zinc slowly, keeping temperatures at or below 15 C, and the total addition is going to take somewhere around an hour. That's the planned addition time. After the zinc is all in solution, you want to continue stirring and reacting for a half hour. Make sure that everything gets reduced well. The pH at the end of this period should be somewhere around 8 to 9. So after a half hour of all the reagents in and reacting, it is now time to filter out the zinc waste. A vacuum filter works really well. I use a hand vacuum. It works great for this. Simply pour out your reaction mixture into the filter, apply vacuum, and then you're going to get a slightly yellow tinted filtrate off of this. This liquid filtrate portion is what's going to contain your aminoguanidine, and we now have to extract it to its bicarbonate form so that we can have usable aminoguanidine bicarbonate for NAP. To do this, we're going to use ammonium hydroxide. So the original procedure is quoted at 25% ammonium hydroxide. The ratio is 126 millimole, but it's a 0.66 mole equivalent to the other molecules here. But I'm using 10% ammonia solution instead of the 25%. So my weight is going to be 21.4 grams of ammonium hydroxide per 20 grams of nitroguanidine being reduced here. So I add the ammonium hydroxide to the filtrate in a beaker. Now we're going to add bicarbonate. We're going to use that in the sodium form. So sodium bicarbonate, 28.57 grams. It's going to be a 0.94 mole equivalent. We add all this into the filtrate mixture, and we're going to stir it. You want to make sure that everything gets stirred in, so maybe perhaps 10 minutes or so of stirring. And that's it. At this point, you are done. You've got everything in that's going to produce this aminoguanidine bicarbonate. You now remove it from stirring, and you're going to allow the reaction mixture to just sit still for 12 hours. So after 12 hours of standing, you are brought to where we are right now, 12 hours later. And you are going to be greeted by a nice collection of aminoguanidine bicarbonate precipitated out and typically clung to the bottom of your beaker. Now we have to go into drying it so that we're ready to weigh and use the material. So now we're going to decant off the liquid portion, keep our AGU, and scrape it out, put it on a filter, and then dry it. You want to use low heat to dry aminoguanidine. It is somewhat sensitive to temperature. You don't want to be blasting heat on it, anything like that. If you're really concerned about possible decomposition or driving off ammonia or something, then you can use silica gel. That's what I would recommend, and just doing a long drying period with silica gel to assist as a desiccant. And that's it. Now you have your yield of aminoguanidine bicarbonate ready to use in your NAP synthesis. The small batch method, it works great. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching.